Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me again today to meet another member of the Upcycled Cloth Collective. I'm so excited to have Deborah Cohen with us today. Deborah was a very lucky lady to have managed to make herself slimmer. And in this episode, she is going to share her learning with her own clothes on how she learned how to make them a little bit smaller so that they fit her nicely and so that she feels fabulous in them and so that she didn't have to go out and buy a whole new closet of clothes. So Deborah, if you can just say hello and introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, this is a great adventure for me, and thank you Melanie for setting it up, and I hope I can explain clearly what I did and encourage other people to shop their own closet with a needle and thread if necessary.
I'm so excited. So I'm just going to take a minute to share my screen where we have the
Pictures.
Where did they go? Oh dear.
So.
All right, can you see the screen share?
Yes, I can see the screen share, so we're winning.
We are winning. Thank you. Thank you. So for those of you who are watching, I have made some slides just to support Deborah's conversation. And she was kind enough, as she was working on her clothing, to take these lovely before and after pictures so that we can see exactly what she's done. So Deborah, over to you. And then you can just tell me when I need to move your slides along.
Well, this was one of the first ones I did. This was a very much a favourite top of mine in the Lagenlook style, which sort of just means asymmetric and irregular. And I played around with it. And I think that's the first thing you have to give yourself is permission to play. You know, it was where can I put a fold in it that looks logical with the design? And this is true of whether it's something asymmetric like this or whether it's a much more formal dress, which I'll show you in a minute. But this one I've taken about 6 inches out of it where I'm pointing. I've just pulled the front over and put in a large pleat. Okay,
so you've just put in a pleat. That's all you've done there?
That's all I've done. And so It's turned it from an ugly tent to a fitted top again that actually looks like it was designed for someone about 5 sizes smaller.
It's beautiful. I still looked at it and I was like, I couldn't quite see on the picture what you'd done. And now that you mentioned the pleat there, I see it. And that is such a simple solution.
Yeah. And I didn't bother with the underdress. I just left the underdress alone. I just folded the top layer and stitched the pleat down. And sometimes I put an ornamental brooch there just because I feel like doing something decorative, making a bit more of a feature of it. But the whole outfit now works again.
Okay.
And it was about 2 minutes sewing. But it only took 10 minutes of fiddling to decide where to put the pleat.
Okay. So did you put it on and pin it and take it off and pin and
No, I put it on and I just stood in front of the mirror that this photo is taken in my big bedroom mirror, and I just played with it until I found a place the pleat looked all right.
Wow.
And I think that's the big thing, to give people permission to play.
Yes.
Because most of us grew up with very formal dressmaking tuition on one side or none, and both of which are disempowering. Technical, if you don't sew, you could do this with a safety pin.
Yes. I love
or a kilt pin or something like that.
Yes.
But it's a case of having permission to play. And I think that's the first thing I'd say to everyone: give yourself permission to play.
Oh, I love that so much.
Because that's the necessary thing. And just the other little thing to point out, you may notice I'm wearing a scarf in this. I've sewn my COVID mask inside the scarf, which means I put it on in the morning and I'm always got my mask.
Oh, that's sneaky. Very clever.
Because I kept on finding I'd end up in a situation where I needed my mask and I didn't have one because, you know, I didn't have a pocket or I didn't have this. So I just took, particularly in winter, to sewing a mask into the scarves.
Yes.
And then you put it on with your clothes in the morning and you've got it.
That's
not necessarily wearing something big and ugly and uncomfortable, but you've got one all day.
That's such a fantastic idea. And it goes beautifully with the outfit. I thought it was I thought the styling was gorgeous.
Oh, I love it. And, you know, it was one of those outfits that I was quite sad. I thought, oh, it looks dreadful now because it just wasn't hanging right. And yeah, it's, you know, I grew up with the more formal, you know, dressmaking classes at school where it was all about rules and regulations and you can't do anything that's not in the pattern. And I think, especially with modern designs, it's so much more of it's about breaking the rules and whatever.
Yes, because that pleat in that position is kind of non-standard almost. And it works so beautifully.
And the fact that it's only on one side and it's but the fundamental garment was asymmetric to start with, so therefore it works.
Yes. That's such a fantastic tip for asymmetric garments. Thank you, Deborah. And also thank you for giving us permission to experiment. I think that is such great information. Now, I love this project a lot. I think it's gorgeous.
Well, this is a V-neck t-shirt dress that's stretched out very quickly. And it also got a bit baggy because I'd lost weight. But if you can see, the neckline is completely stretched out of shape. And that was rather frustrating because this was something I'd actually bought, and I was a little annoyed that after 2 or 3 washes it looked like that. Now, what I did to move over to the updated version was I turned the actual rib trim inside and just sewed it down because it was so stretched out, it was really ugly. And then I put a pleat down the front to make it smaller because I needed to do that. Now, you may notice in the middle of the tummy there's a grease stain, which I couldn't get out. So, and that's the reason for the lace, because although I put a pleat in it, I couldn't completely disguise the grease stain. So I thought, what am I going to do to cover that up? And the lace works 2 ways. One is the lace is such a strong contrast with the dress that the minor variations in the fabric aren't as obvious. And then I added the buttons down the middle, which were just odd buttons that I had in my stash. They're all the same size, but they're not the same buttons. And that in itself adds that slightly quirky, different look to the garment. But that works.
I love it.
And again, it's all about permission. Give yourself permission to play, give yourself to rummage in what you've got. It might be another shirt that's not working. It might be, if you can get 1 usable garment out of 2 not usable garments, you've done well.
I also love your very simple solutions. Like what appeals to me about your style of doing things is like there where it was stretched out, you just folded it back in and stitched it under instead of cutting it, because cutting would actually have probably, the fabric's already floppy, so it's going to become floppier. But by just folding it back, you're actually making it more stabilized. But also instead of faffing with lots of different things, you just fold it back and sew it. That real simple solution I find is awesome.
And I think certainly, my formal training would have kind of had fits at that solution. But I think we've got to try. We've got to try and see our clothes differently. I mean, yeah, and it's, if we want to be sustainable and reusable, and you know, the interesting thing about the fabric in this dress is it's actually got elastane in it, and I'm looking at it again, it's sort of ripply, but it's, the elastane has gone so much all over the dress, I've decided again that's just a feature now.
Yes.
You know, the fabric is ripply all over, isn't it? It was meant to be like that.
Fantastic.
New design feature.
Style it and wear it, darling.
Why not?
I love your attitude.
You know, and this, I will be honest, once when it does finally die as a day dress, it's going to be my next night dress.
Fantastic. I love that. I love
because it's very comfortable.
Yes.
Now, this is the complete other end of the range. This was my formal party dress, and I'd only worn it once. And you can, I've shown put the pins where the pleat is. Now, because of the way it was cut and put together, it was quite a complex pattern. And I actually took a note from myself with the red dress and thought, well, what would happen if I put a pleat right down the middle of the front?
Okay.
So I have taken probably 3 to 4 inches out of the middle of the front. I just put the dress on, pinched it in, decided, that's what we're going to do. And I sewed a pleat in, and I did, because it's zipped in the back, I did 2 smaller pleats down the back.
Okay.
From the neckline to the waist. So I've created an extra few pleats in the top of the skirt that look like part of the design. And it works as a dress. And the other thing I like, if I'm really honest, is we have to be real as women. We do change size.
Yes.
I have not cut the material away.
Yes.
So, a dress like this you might wear once or twice a year for several years. Yes. And if I put weight on again or whatever, I can just take the pleats out.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So it's sustainable doing it like this. Whereas if you cut the material away,
yes,
it's, and particularly for a going out dress that you won't wear a lot. To me, that was really important.
Yes, yes. That's
I've also
got
a similar pleat in a Guatemalan vest, and I've got a great whopping pleat down the back now. Again, same idea, that if I've been wearing that vest for 20 years, and I can take it in and out. Yes,
I love that.
Now, this is an op shop purchase. Now, I don't know whether you've heard of Daymart, but Daymart is a thermal wear company in Australia that is known for its highly warm, light clothing. So when I saw a Daymart shirt for $1 or $2 at the local op shop, I thought that might be useful. And I got it home and it was a bit swimmy. So and on me, I was a little bit disappointed. The checks looked a bit messy. But again, I play with it. And you see, I've pulled the checks in to get rid of that half stripe down the middle and made it double busted.
I see what you've done there with the pattern.
And I've matched it across so that it's much tidier. Now, the tip I would give people is, if you are going to attach the useful buttons where you haven't got a button placket, I've actually sewn a ribbon to the inside of the shirt to create strength in the fabric.
Okay, some stability.
So the buttons that you're actually using, there is first step was to sew a length of ribbon on and then sew the button through the fabric and the ribbon.
Okay.
So the ribbon gives a false placket. Yes. Now, again, but there's no cutting involved. You could, if I change size, shape, I can just unpick and move.
Yes. Yes.
And in the back, this the photo where it looks pleated, well, I've just sewn a few tucks at the waist in the back.
Yes.
I have a condition in my spine that's a bit curved, which means I like the extra space at the top of my back because it just is more comfortable. But I don't like it looking like it's 3 sizes too big at the waist. So I've just put 2 or 3 sewn about 5 centimetre pleats in the middle of the back at the waistline so that it'll sit in either whether I tuck it into a skirt or wear it loose like I'm wearing it there.
That is so clever because you've kind of reduced space both front and back.
Yeah, well, that makes it is in most things, if they're not asymmetric, you need to do that so that the garment hangs right.
Yes, that makes sense.
Because otherwise it can get a bit sort of twisted.
Yes, that makes sense.
Now this was a very loose oversized shirt that I bought just before I started to lose weight. And it was fairly loose, that was the style. But as I lost weight, that loose style really didn't look good.
Okay.
So what I've done is I again had a play, thought, what am I going to do with this? I put it on, stood in front of the mirror with a packet of pins and played around. And I came up with these pleats that run from the high waistline over the shoulder and down the back.
Oh, wow. Now, so that pleat actually goes right over the shoulder
right down to the same seam at the back. So it kind of, and because of it's on a slight angle, because that's what I played around and that's what made it sit right, I've added the buttons as a decorative feature to make a feature of the fact that the waistline is no longer straight, rather than it looks like a mistake.
Yes, that's so clever.
Now it looks deliberate.
Okay.
But so again, it probably took longer to play around and work out where I wanted to put the pleat than it did to sew it.
I'm loving this. Your tips are so doable for beginners.
Oh yes, this is an absolutely straight seam.
Yes.
I get
myself doing this. I love it.
And the thing is, again, if I was to put weight on again, I just take the pleat out.
Love your work.
Now, this is a man's shirt. Now, the sleeves, if you look in the middle picture, which is the before, they're much too long.
Yes.
Now, your initial response to that situation is to try and think, do I have to alter the sleeves?
Yes.
Now, that's fiddly because you're dealing with the cuff set and, where the cuff is and the shoulder.
Yes.
But actually what's wrong is that the shoulders, because it's a man's shirt, are too big for me. Yes. And they're sort of hanging down. So what I've done, as you can see the detail, I've put a pleat in the shoulder. And it runs about 10 centimeters down the front, again, over the shoulder and down the back. So it's not as long as the last one, but that lifts the sleeve up to the point.
So clever.
Where the sleeve is no longer too long.
I've got some shirts I want to do this with right now. Thank you.
And the other thing I'd say to people, I happen to be what they call an inverted triangle body shape. And lots of people, if you go to these style advisors, they say, don't have features, don't, on the shoulders, don't, because it makes an emphasis. My tip is, it's fine to have the feature if the sleeve begins over your bra strap. Okay. Because that makes it look like the sleeve is puffy rather than your shoulders are big.
That's so clever. That's such brilliant advice. You're giving us such great tips. I'm sure everybody in the Cloth Collective who watches this is going to go, Deborah, thank you. You've solved a bunch of my challenges today.
Now, this was another man's shirt, and it was not big enough in the hips. Okay. So basically, I unpicked it to the waist and added a triangle of a similarly coloured fabric.
Okay. And you found such a great fabric there. I still looked at it. I was like, how did you find such a great match?
Well, that probably is a quilter's answer. I don't know whether you can see I'm in the background, but there is an enormous quilting machine and I have hundreds of fabrics. But most people wear a tonal range of fabrics.
Yes.
Most of your clothes, this goes with that.
Yes.
So if you have something that is wearing out, you may well be able to have one thing that you use to salvage.
Yes.
And say, well, that's the one I'm going to cut up. I'm going to use to
yes.
to use as the source.
Yes.
Or it might be your husband's, your boyfriend's, or your child's shirt. You don't need an adult's garment. The little dress your daughter has grown out of and is too stained to pass on to someone else may have enough to make a patch.
Yes.
An extension piece.
Yes.
Yeah, so this if we go down another photo, I'll just show you that shirt.
Okay, sorry, I had the slides in the wrong order. There we go.
You can see how much it wouldn't do up in the front in the first photo, and in the second photo it does do up in the front.
Yes, okay.
And that's because of the prying. Now the thing is, you stick the shirt on, you measure the distance across the gap.
Yes.
And that's the minimum amount to put in on the sides.
So the one thing I'm confused about with this shirt is, who did they make it for in the first place? Who had a waist that was that narrow?
It's a slim fit man's shirt. I bought it expecting to have to do far more to it.
Okay.
But I just love the blue.
It's gorgeous. It looks fantastic.
I love it. It's the right blue for me.
Yes.
One of the things I learnt many years ago was that if you can work out what colours suit you, if you're wearing colours that suit your skin and your complexion, you can get away with a multitude of not quite right other features, because most people respond to the colour.
Oh, that's such a great tip. Thank you, Deborah.
Most people will respond to colour quicker than they will respond to
the detail of the clothing.
Now, this is a denim skirt that I know how old this one was, because I bought this skirt when I went to adopt my youngest child. So it was bought in 2005. It got too small and then it got too big. And I've just put 2 pleats in the back, either side of the zip, to bring it in to fit. And again, haven't cut any material away. If I change size again, I'll just unpick the pleats. And in a skirt, you don't have to keep, if the side seam is slightly pulled towards the back, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
And that is one of my favorite blouses. Incidentally, it's not one of the adjusted ones, but that's an old sheet.
Wow, it's beautiful. You did such a great job of it.
Now, these were a couple of shirts. The last 2 items things I was given, or I actually went out and bought this one deliberately too small.
Okay.
Because I want to say to people, this isn't about saying getting smaller is better. This is about the dignity of having clothes that fit.
Yes.
Now, because I have big shoulders, if you look in the first photo, that's as far as I can move my arms. I can't actually bring my arm forward. It's too tight. Okay. Now, lots of people, for various reasons, have problems when their shirts get too tight in the arms, particularly if they're cheaply made Asian ones. I'm regularly, but I've almost given up mail ordering shirts, because so often the arms are so tight I can't move in them because of the size of my shoulders. And I'm never going to lose weight in the shoulders. And so as I lose weight and the overall size goes down, this becomes more and more of a problem. So what I did, and the photo of the actual shirt makes it a little bit more obvious, because the shirt is a stripe, and I couldn't match it. Yes, that's this one. I couldn't match it. So what I did was choose a floral in the same tones, because now this is a design feature, not a, oh, help, you've had to alter your shirt.
Yes.
Now what I've done is I've unpicked it at the shoulder, and unpicked it at the cuff, split the sleeve, and added a 4-inch strip.
Wow.
Sewed it in, gathered it up, put it back in. And then in the middle of the back, I've cut it up, hem to yoke, and added in a strip. Now, there. And the combination of having a little more movement in the back of the body and the split in the arms means that I can't move my arms in this shirt problem is solved.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that handy tip, because I'm sure that sleeve thing must be very frustrating. I can only imagine if sleeves were catching me like that, it would drive me nuts.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, people's bodies change shape, you know, whether it be with childbirth or whatever. You know, you put on fluid, you take it off, you change shape all your lives. Menopause hits or whatever it is. We need to make our clothes flexible. And one of the things that has really made me aware of this is actually reading about medieval clothing. My son got into reenactment, and I started reading up about medieval clothing, and they made it to adjust.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes, most of it's size flexible. And it suddenly made me think, this is such common sense. If we want to reduce our consumption in a self-accepting and self-respecting way, we have to be size flexible in our clothing while being while still looking nice. You know, for instance, 18th century petticoats had 2 waistbands. They had one for the back half of the skirt and one for the front half of the skirt, and each had a tie on it. So you tied the back half on, and then you tied the front half on.
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
You know, you had a slit down each side which overlapped, and how much it overlapped depended on whether you were pregnant or not.
You could wear the same petticoat all the time.
Yeah.
And then they say we've made progress.
That's right. I mean, I'm sure zips are more fancy.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm not so convinced that everything we've progressed in is a true progression.
Oh, Deborah, thank you so much. That was such a valuable conversation. Every single thing you said was amazing. And I'm pretty certain that everybody watching is going to be totally inspired. So thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate the generosity of sharing and learning that we received from you today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.